we go. Okay, it's official now. So really the purpose of this podcast and really the reason why Ethan and I created this is we want really to talk to people to not only provide inspiration, specifically to college students, but really folks that have had very successful careers, um, say in corporate life and have since transitioned to something a little bit more missional, something in which they could really throw all of their passion into it. And, we figured, you have really embodied that, over the past 4 or 5 years. And I know that, you and I have had some, really profound conversations the last couple of years, about your journey. And really just to kind of, set the tone here as far
Sure.
as background.
Yeah.
Um, so again, you and I, we've known each other. So this is going to be a completely biased interview, if you will. So
Hey.
you and I have known each other, and we've been,
hmm
great friends for over 40 years.
Did you actually count before? I woke up this morning, I'm like, how long have I known Reg? Forever.
Yeah, forever. And I actually just kind of wanted to say 20 plus, just so we wouldn't age ourselves here.
Yeah,
Um,
people are calculating, like, yeah, something's off here.
yeah, exactly. Something's totally off.
They're like, Ethan is how old now? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Um, so it's really just by way of not only our friendship for over 40 years, really the profound conversations we've had
hmm
over the past few years about your journey, and really if I were to kind of recap, um, what you've done, kind of looking at it from the outside. I mean, you've had a 20, 25 year plus
hmm
very successful career, in talent leadership and talent acquisition. You've filled really the C-suites, with talent, across, organizations that, we're all very familiar with. So
Yeah.
I'll name, I guess, a handful or so here. Google, Electronic Arts, Roblox, Tempo. I know leaving out a couple as well. And really what compelled Ethan and I to want to have this conversation with you is I believe, 2021, 2020, right around that time period, you already have had this very, very successful corporate career, but something kind of struck you, during that time period where, you decided to, dip your toes into real estate investment, and really, since that time, you've gone full throttle into it to where now you've invested in properties in not only California but Ohio, Florida, Texas,
hmm
probably leaving out a couple of other states. And we're here to want to hear this journey and really to provide inspiration. And I'm really going to leave it here to Ethan to
Sure.
to ask you all the questions and to
Sure.
kind of prompt you to tell your
Yeah,
story and to inspire.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ask
I just
away.
yeah, I had some prepared questions. And my first one, I just want to go back to, where it started, like in the corporate world. Just tell us about, your work in talent leadership and acquisition.
So I kind of landed in it kind of accidentally, if you will. I didn't think like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be, TA or HR or anything like that. I was a psych major, right? Coming out of it from Davis with a minor in human development. So I was going to be a counselor for troubled teens. That's what I wanted to do. Or that's what I
Because
thought
you
I
were a
wanted to do.
troubled teen yourself.
So I felt like I could like relate. So I felt like I getcha. And so, and then I think so right after college, I was a counselor for troubled teens, and I part of my job was I was in charge of interviewing other potential counselors. And I remember thinking, well, I really like doing this. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their answers. I have the same question, but everyone's answers are different, right? And I'm like, and I remember thinking, can I do this for a living? Like, is there a way for me to do this for a living? And so, this is like a million years ago, where it wasn't necessarily a career path where it is now, right? And so I started off as a uh, coordinator. So I scheduled interviews for recruiters. So I really started from like scratch, right? Like I was there in the in the trenches, and then I became a sourcer, which is like another I looked for talent that the recruiters were looking for, and then I became a recruiter, and then management, and kind of and off I went, and I got into it kind of accidentally, happily accidentally, and then really enjoyed it. Just really loved being with people. I'm a people person. I'm definitely not a math person. Reggie will know that. And I just really enjoy being with, just meeting different people, and the satisfaction of offering a job, to potential employees. It's really rewarding. And I think one of the things that I think about, I'll never forget the very first like hire that I made. I was really young, and made the offer, and I was really nervous because I wasn't sure if, I'd be able to like answer any questions that, all the questions that, she had for me. But she was just so excited and just as nervous, I felt like. And as she was hanging up, and as she was hanging up, I heard her say, yes, as she was hanging up, right? And I remember that felt so good. And I think about that all the time. And I think about that when I'm having a bad day as a recruiter. It's one of those things that I kind of it grounds me of why I was doing what I was doing. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
And I really and I just really enjoyed it, and I think it was one of those accidental career paths really for me. Yeah. So
like I mean, to add more, but like as a recruiter, what do you see like specifically that's like special in people? Like that's I don't know. That's like what I was thinking off the top of my head.
yeah, no, it's a great question, because I think for me as a recruiter, you can always learn the hard skills, right? Whatever that may be. As a tech recruiter, you can learn all the different, especially when I'm recruiting engineers, you can learn all of that, right? It's the soft skills that's really a challenge, particularly in engineering, right? And I'm like, not to call this out, but it's no secret. And that's how I roll. Like, I tell like it is, right? Like, they come with the talent, they come with the skills, but man, the soft skills, it's just missing sometimes, and you have to really draw it out. And so when you do come across, I think talented candidates that have both, it's a gem. And so I think that's those are the special ones. And there's plenty out there. It's just there's not as many. There's not as many. So, but definitely that's what makes, I think, some of the recruits that I've specialized in pretty special.
Yeah, for sure. And just to lead into the next segue, it's like more about the tech space. I know, you worked for prominent technology companies like Google, Electronic Arts, and Roblox. So what prompted you to move into the tech space?
So back then, that was kind of what we saw, like what it is AI now, right?
Yeah.
Like I knew, like, oh, this is where the world is going, and I wanted to be in front of it. And I wanted to like not be chasing after, I want to be in front of it. And so I had a path in my career where I would go non-tech, which is like HR, finance, legal, or tech, which is a little harder because it's not a language I speak at that time. I speak it really well now, right? Like I know the language of tech, but back then I had to really learn it. But I knew I had to learn it in order for me to be marketable, in order for myself to be marketable, in order to do, to get the great jobs out there. And so I made it a mission to understand the language, the engineering language, all the different skill sets that they need. What does that mean exactly? When you say back end engineer, front end engineer, UX, UI engineer, it's like, oh, what does all that mean? At that time, I did not know. And so I had to really learn. Right. And so I made a conscious decision that I'm going to go into the tech world. And to be honest, back then, it's not so much now, maybe like the gap is much, much smaller, but back then tech recruiters made a ton more money than non-tech recruiters. And it
Yeah.
was very prominent. And so I was like chasing that dream. The rest of my career really became like 85% tech, and then the rest are like the non-tech. So I still do both because I want to make sure I can pivot anywhere in direction.
Yeah.
I think it makes me a lot more valuable, but I really focused on kind of what's up and coming, career path.
For sure. Yeah. What specific positions did you recruit for in tech?
So I think everything, like anything engineering. And I
Okay.
literally started from college kids who are graduating,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking I am in the wrong, like I'm majoring in the wrong thing. And I remember, we have college kids that who were getting offers from Google like 250K
Yeah.
out of college, like out of college, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what? With sign-on bonuses of 100,000. This is like during like the big engineering rise, right? And I just remember thinking, wow, this is insanity. And so from right out of college all the way to C-suite,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
so I really focused on just attacking every single direction in all
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
And anything that you can think of, I've recruited for them.
Yeah.
So, and then including that, in fact, as I was ending my career, I was handling AI, when it was starting to be AI. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be the next one. I just can feel
Yeah.
it. I can see it. And sure enough,
Yeah.
here we are.
There you
So
go. Yeah. Yeah. What are like when you said like you like a multitude like between C-suite and college students, what's like the biggest like difference between them? I know like because sometimes the C-suite people have like the same skills as these college people like technically, but I guess I don't know. That's just
I
like my take.
so in the startup world, right? In the startup world, I think that most of the C-suite are just engineers that are building their product or building their company, right?
Yeah.
So they're really engineers, right? But they have the CEO title, the founder title because they founded the company. So they are technically engineers, right?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
then as they grow in their career, or as in different industry, you'll see the difference. It's really a maturity thing,
Yeah.
right? And it's not necessarily saying it's a good or bad thing because there's definitely CEOs out there that are just as immature,
Yeah.
or lacking, sophistication or the ability to see the big picture and all of that. And so I think, also the ego gets bigger, ego
Yeah.
gets bigger as, they as their career grows and all of that. And, the packages of CEOs or sorry, of senior staff in tech is just right. And so I can see why they think like they can walk on, they can walk on water and all of that stuff because, you get caught up in that. You really do. And so, but um, for I think every tech senior staff started as just an engineer, right? And they just kind of grew their career from there. And so I think it's definitely a maturity thing that you'll see the difference between the bookends of the talent.
For sure. Yeah. Do you have Reggie, do you have any or Dad, do you have any I don't know how to keep it professional, but do you have any questions in tech?
No, no, just that I'm always behind the eight ball, that's for sure, when it comes to tech. Um, I don't know, it just, right, you talked about um, almost this inevitability around AI, I guess, during the latter stages of your tech
Mhm.
career.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I guess what I'm curious about is why do you think it's inevitable? Or why did you have that sense whatever, 4 or 5 years ago that it was inevitable to obviously to where we're at today.
Well, I think I saw a lot of, particularly with the company at that time that I was working for, right? And I remember seeing job description says machine learning, right? And I was like, what's that? Right? I'm like, machine learning, And so and then you see the engineers that are graduating with different backgrounds. And I'm like, what study is that? What were you guys studying when you're in that class type of thing? And I think just being in the tech industry, and things are moving so fast and change in terms of like things that are changing and getting better and better and better. It's almost like we couldn't keep up, right? And so I knew that it was kind of, the race is out of the gates, so to speak, and it was off and running, right? And if you weren't on your own horse, you just be lost in the dust behind. And so I think companies that saw that coming and took advantage of that are the ones that are really doing so well now, right?
Yeah.
They got in front of it. So, but like you, Reg, like it's funny. I grew up in tech, and I'm probably like one of the most untechy people, right? Like when I was like trying to log on to Zoom, I'm like, what's happening here? Like,
Right.
what is this? What
I
is
know,
this?
I know. I logged on half an hour before, just that fear
Yeah.
of, oh my goodness, is the camera going to be working? Am I going to have like, three faces that are on the computer screen? But yeah, I totally get you. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
generation that we grew up in.
totally. And I think like Ethan's generation, I think I have a package being delivered. But I
Oh
think
boy.
like, I know, I'm so sorry. I think I have to have signed this. I'm so sorry. I'm
No,
really
no, no, no. Right on. Go for it.
sorry.
No, no, no.
Okay, so you guys can cut that part, right? So
That's the
anyways,
best. That's the best part. It's so
um
rando.
and I know it was definitely random. Okay, sorry. So what was that? What were we in terms of? Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like I knew that technology was just off and running. It was
Yeah,
off and running. So, and it's just a matter of like, okay, now it's AI. What is it going to be? 5 years from now, even.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's not like AI just happened. It's
yeah.
not. It's been there for a few years. It's just coming into like noticeable, and things are easier. Like AI stuff are easier to acquire now, and there's a lot more, you know, different opportunities of what AI could do, right? And so like you don't even need to take notes anymore, right? There's AI note, you have an AI note taking that's
Exactly.
stating all of that, and it's
Yeah.
far better than that what I would have done,
Yeah.
and it's fact.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what's scary about it and phenomenal about it because it's so quick,
Yeah.
so quick. So
Well, I had an AI model that came up because I actually reestablished my Facebook account,
Mm.
I don't know, about 3 months or so ago.
yeah.
So just to kind of keep people away, I kind of put a mean face
Oh, sure,
profile
sure.
photo on there.
Mhm.
And people are still finding me. Not a lot, but people are still finding me. And there was this little feature that was thrown in that I discovered yesterday where you can have your profile photo appear as if you're in motion. So, it's you doing the heart sign. I don't think I even did that correctly or whatever, right?
It's this
It,
way.
yeah, yeah, okay. Something like, I guess because I've never used the
I think
heart
you
sign.
did a diamond.
Oh, diamond. Yeah, diamond, right? So the heart sign, right? And
Yeah.
I swear to you, they made a model of what my hands look like in making that sign, and it looked exactly like my hands.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Frightening.
It is. It's scary. It's scary. But people are like, oh, AI is going to take over, our jobs and stuff. And I think I hate to say this, but there will be for sure.
Yeah,
But I think it's how you use AI will keep you relevant. You
Yeah.
know, how you use how you use AI is what's going to keep you relevant. You know,
100%.
it's supposed to be a supplemental to you, not a, not to replace you. And so, but that takes work. That
Yeah.
takes work.
I
For
wanted to
sure.
I wanted to like jump in more to like the recruiting process and how
Okay.
AI is actually being used for that. Like I myself have, I've been looking for internships this summer. It's not been that great so far, but there's still
He's
time.
been the victim of AI, I think.
I've been yeah, I've been getting like filtered out and like things like that.
I think AI is definitely. So I think sourcing. I think AI has, could potentially wipe out sorcerers, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that, when you just plug in keywords and schools and majors and whatever specific you're looking for, right? It just
Yeah.
bing, and here's the first 100 and here's the first 150 or whatever, however way you want to, and I think AI has really made it so much faster, and but at the same time it doesn't necessarily mean better, but because you would, it's still not the same as when human is actually looking at, and there may be some things that, AI may not, have have I don't know, like, not picked up on that a
Yeah.
human, a human recruiter would, right? And so, but it's definitely there and it's changed recruiting so much. And I even just, I try to kind of keep an eye on it. I'm not in the recruiting space now, but I
Yeah.
definitely am curious still of how it's changing it. But I think it's made recruiters' job easier in terms of the sourcing piece because, but at the same time, it's also, I think, could potentially make sourcing uh too too streamlined, right?
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
tunnel visioned a little bit. And
Yeah.
so I think there should be a better way to ensure that we're not missing out on some of the gems out there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is, like, I mean, I think about, like, you're a perfect example, Ethan, right? Like, why I think about your comment of like, I'm looking for a job this summer and I haven't, I haven't found it yet, and all of that. And in my mind, I'm thinking you would be a perfect example of a gem that AI may have missed, right? Like, here's a go-getter kid. Here's a,
Yeah.
here's someone who's taking control, taking the bull by its horn, all that. That doesn't translate well in
It doesn't.
in
Yeah.
when you're just looking at words, right? Versus when a recruiter's looking at something and be like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, okay, because it's a little bit more personal, right?
Yeah.
And which is a shame because if they just met you, right?
Hmm.
If they just met you, it would be a completely different story. And so that's what I mean when I say AI could potentially miss the gems. And you're a perfect example of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you came across my desk, right, I would be a little bit, if I didn't know you, from another intern, I would look at your background and I'd be like, oh, that's great. Like, look at this kid. Like, this is awesome. And, versus like AI would be like looking for certain words. And if maybe you have 3 out of the 5, 7 out of the 10, you might get knocked out of the list,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, but I've looked at people where I'm like, oh, they have half, they have half of it, but I'm like, yeah, there's something about this I kind of like, and I'll say to my coordinator, you know, let me have 15 minutes with this person, right? And sometimes you just need 5, right, to know, like, okay, you know, bag in the ocean or put them in the basket,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that that's definitely it's yeah, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be surprised if, if AI is missing some gems out there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good resume. I go to a pretty good school. I've done,
Mm-hmm. Great.
experiences, every summer, things like that. So it's pretty unfortunate to see, like how like someone posts a job on LinkedIn, Indeed, whatever, JobX or what Handshake, whatever, and then there's just thousands of people that apply, and then
Yeah.
that's when people are just getting filtered out, even though people have had, different experiences. in before that, that align with whatever the internship may be, whether it's
Hmm.
business, wealth management, things like
Hmm.
that. So it's just
Hmm.
unfortunate to see. But
Yeah.
I feel like where I try to take advantage is by utilizing my connections and
Yep.
reaching back out to people that
Mm-hmm.
I've connected with before in different industries, and just being persistent, kind of being annoying, like following up on emails, because like
Hmm.
you got to do what you have to do. So I feel like
Yeah,
that's
no, I
what it's all
totally.
about.
I think tenacity, there's a lot to be said with tenacity, right? And I
Yeah.
think that, and I love that. I think it's great. Like, as long as you do it in the right way, in the right timing, I think that could do you good, right? And I think also when you say networking, I think, unfortunately, there's also a lot to be said with who you know,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
who you know. That's why, I think a lot of there's a lot of kids that get an internship in their dad's work or their mom's jobs, right? Because it's sometimes it's who you know, and you get your foot on the door, and then it's up to you how do you you know how you make a name for yourself versus somebody's kid, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it definitely networking is very important, especially when you're in college. Like, make those connections, because these your classmates are going to be eventually the CEOs and the
Yeah.
CTOs and the
Mhm.
CHROs and all of
I'm
that,
one of them.
right? Yeah, and so it could be like, hey, remember me? Like,
Yeah.
I helped you walk back to the campus when you were stupid drunk.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, those are like the things, those are the connections that you should,
True.
you definitely should keep, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I want to, switch gears, to the like kind of what you do now in
sure.
real estate. So,
Mm.
you have these short-term rentals. What types of experiences do you want to create for couples and families who stay at your properties?
It's really for short-term rental, it's about experience. It's really experience. At least for the properties that I wanted to acquire and that I wanted to manage, are the big properties um, that can sleep up to 18 people, right? So it's like, it's my target market is like families, multiple families are vacationing together. What kind of experience do I want them to have? And so I really wanted them to, and let me back up for a second. And and I want to make sure like they get what they pay for, because my nightly rates are no joke, right? Because I figured, okay, well, there's a lot of you should be able to like afford, you know, this type of cabin. And if you were to think about it, if you all each got one room in the hotel, you would still pay more, and you wouldn't all be together, right? And so when I think about that, okay, what kind of experience do I want? I want to make sure that my reviews reflect that, right? And so my stuff are not cheap. Like, my stuff are not cheap. And so like the beds are very comfortable. I have guests who after they'll say, "Where did you get the mattress?" Things like that, right? Or
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they have a good time. And so I have a game room, right? And I have like old school arcade games in there, like Mortal Kombat, who someone has yet to beat me into it, by the way. And so, Pac-Man, and it's fun, and it reminds people of like back in the day, and foosball, or like definitely have a pool table all the time, right? And and or like one property has like a putt golf thing, or like a horseshoe, a bocce ball, and then two other properties have a pickleball court, pickleball slash basketball court. Because I knew, here's the thing, right? I think about like, okay, what's the new incoming thing? Everybody likes to play pickleball now, right? So we put a pickleball court in both property in two of the properties, and it's the first two properties that get booked in the summer like that, right? Because everybody wants to play pickleball, right? And so, and then what I noticed was like people are like, oh, I wish we were able to play pickleball, during the winter time. So the next cabin that I'm not the next cabin, next house that I'm working on right now
Hmm.
will have an indoor pickleball
Oh, wow.
basketball court. And so I will be the first one in that area, he's going to have an indoor pickleball. So, and I'll be blasting that indoor pickleball court. So you think about like, how do we get ahead, and how do
Yeah.
I want to make sure that
Yeah.
that my guests feel like, wow, this is awesome. My kitchen is well stocked. My review said I've never been in an Airbnb with the kitchen that was well stocked. Not is it just well stocked? It's labeled like when you open a drawer, it'll say ice cream scoop, like literally a little ice cream scoop right there. So people are like, so my housekeeping team and the guests are like, oh, it goes here when they're staying there for multiple days, right? I have guests who say, oh my God, thank God that your kitchen's like, it's like the best. Or, that's how I keep my kitchen too. Or I've had guests who say, you've inspired me. I came home and I did my kitchen. I started labeling everything. And, and so it's a feel good experience, right? And
Yeah.
it's togetherness. The cabins have a signature fire pit. And that's all my cabins are known for, this signature fire pit. And it literally can sit up to, I think I counted 20 people. Now, what fire pit can sit 20 people, but it's still closed range, right? So I put swings in there, and Adirondack, chairs all around a big fire pit. And so it just creates like family and camaraderie and, like the fellas just hang out there and drink beer and listen to music and talk about tall tales and all that stuff, right? And the ladies come in there and gossip and have a good time, and like so it
Yeah.
creates that kind of environment. So it's that kind of experience, right? I want them to have an experience of like something that extra special that not they've never like they never really they don't have at home, you
Yeah.
know. So
No, yeah, no, that sounds all great. Like all the unique amenities. I myself am studying hospitality at BU, so I'm really
yeah,
learning about, the experience, the customer experience, things like that as well.
yeah,
I'm doing a concentration in real estate development and then a minor in entrepreneurship and innovation. So
yeah,
I know whatever you're doing right now is really aligning to what I'm actually interested in. And
yeah.
I just wanted to talk a little bit more. You have all these cool amenities, all these amazing properties. I just wanted to hear a little bit about, the financials. How are you ensuring that, you're making, enough, net operating income and, return on investment overall, and how
Great
you use
question.
that leverage?
Yeah, great question. I'm actually, so when I'm looking at a property, um, my ROI, return on investment, my cash on cash
Hmm.
is very, very conservative, right? So I need to make sure that, so when you invest, right, anything, stocks, whatever, they say, oh, 10% return is great, right? Like stocks, like that's like the sure things, right? The SP 500, oh, 10 to 12%. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. 15% on a good year. Awesome. Right. And I'm like, that's just not good enough for me, you know? And so, I, some of my cash on cash or, my ROI has to hit at least 30 to 35%. And so I look at properties that are not so expensive, right? That's not so high. And then, and then um, in a location where I can command a high nightly rate. And it takes a lot of research, right? And there's definitely tools out there that does it for me, and then just kind of pulls a report and I look at it, and I make a point to like, acquire property at least one property a year,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so I mean that's at least there's been years where I acquired two or three, but it's like circulating, right? Because I'm selling something and I'm buying something, so it's like really crazy. And so like 2024 was probably the most chaotic year where I was like, I think I sold three properties, bought two properties. It was just, and there, it was like a dancing game of finances. And so it was very, very stressful. But that comes with being an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? And there's risk involved in that. And so I really do a very conservative due diligence, and I'm very conservative about my numbers. And one of the properties that I have a partner with, and I think they kind of saw like, or they knew, like, one of they're close friends of mine, and they knew that it was doing well. And so but that's only because I'm very, like I said, I'm very conservative about some of my, the way that I do my due diligence. And I don't get emotional about it, right? It's
Mm.
a business transaction. So anytime I feel like, okay, this property is reached its peak,
Yeah.
I'll put it on the market and I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, um, or one particular property in Georgia, actually, I had just launched it. I think it was like 5 months old. And someone reached out and said, really love the property. I love your property. I love that what you did to your short-term rental. I really want to get into it. I don't have the energy to do the install. I don't have the design mind. I just want to own something that is already like a like a ready to roll type of thing,
Mm.
right? And I'm just like, dude, I just got this. Like, I just finished it and la la la. And he basically, like, he made me an offer I could not refuse,
Yeah.
right? So and I calculated it, and I'm like, okay, well, I would still make this. This would be where I would map out in terms. So I had to do all of that, and he was willing to be all on my terms. So I, you know, I could easily have gone like, no, I just put so much effort into that. I'm not. But it was a business decision. Like, okay, sign right here. Here are the keys. And so I think real estate cannot be an emotional business. It has to be a financial
Mm.
decision all the time.
Yeah.
Even if, like, oh, I really love this because I love the whatever I love the wallpaper that I put in. It was so hard to do it. It was like so much effort. It's like, okay, so, oh, I really love this couch, and it's no longer, they're not selling it anymore. So, it's really, it has to be a financial a
Yeah.
financial decision at all times.
Yeah. My last question was talk about a little bit about the marketing and share a little bit more about what properties you have and where they're located. You can like plug it here,
Sure.
so.
So I started the first property I ever bought was in Orlando. I wanted something because I want something safe because it was the first one, right? It's Orlando's a year-round city, right? You
Yeah.
have all the, Disney World is there and everything. Um, but I wasn't sure if that's, did I want that kind of crowd? It's a lot of work, right? Because the house gets banged up because the kids go through it and stuff.
Mhm.
And I got it in a fairly decent price, and then the market went up, and then so I like sold it, and then I got it into Fort Lauderdale, and so it's a matter of like learning, like, what's my niche, right? Like, what's my location, and I think after a few years of just kind of checking out different areas, I really landed in Ohio, which is the Hocking Hills. And, it ranked number 6 in, best, parks, in the US. And I remember reading that in Forbes magazine, and I was like, where's this place? And I go check it out. And I am not an outdoors person, like, at all. But I just loved it. It was it's just beautiful, right? It's a different kind of green. The hiking trails are amazing. The waterfalls are beautiful, and it's an easy drive from Columbus, Ohio airport to the location. And it's central enough where a lot of different people from different states actually meet up there. Families and friends and stuff, they meet up there, right? And they hang out there. The Ohio State families, when they
Mm.
get together, that's where they go. Hocking Hills. They rent big cabins and all of that stuff, right? And so, or like right after graduation, they go to Hocking Hills and spend time with family. So there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of that stuff. And so I have 3 cabins in Hocking Hills, and they're all 18. They sleep 18 up to 18 people, and 2 of them have I built a pool as well to accommodate those families that want a pool in summer, and then my fourth project now, which we're going to do an install in 2 weeks. I'm actually deep in design right now, is a house. It's not a cabin, so it's a little different. And I wanted to kind of veer away from the cabin look because I have three already, and I don't want to have too many because then you end up competing against yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted something different. And so, but it's going to have the same experience. There's going to be, one of the rooms, I'm turning it into a babe cave, right? And it'll have a karaoke machine in there and a little stage, the old school mic, and all of that stuff. And then and it'll be like speak easy lounge ladies type of design. And then one of the rooms are gonna have the fellas in it, right? It's gonna have the pool table, it's gonna have a little mini bar, it's gonna have 4 TVs, so they can play whatever sports all at the same time that they want, right? And so again, I'm focusing on experience, right? And what that's going to look like. And that's the house that's going to have the indoor pickleball basketball court
I
in
see.
there, And so I'm actually debating and putting a little golf situation there somewhere. So
I,
yeah, so that's, so it's about, it's about where do I find the property that will yield the best ROI, and the type of market I'm reaching out to. So
for sure.
that's where they all are. So
Yeah. All great stuff. The
yeah.
Reggie or Dad, do you have anything to say? I don't know how to do it on like this type of thing. So
No,
let's-
no,
That is okay. I think that is
Dad
okay.
is good. Yeah,
Dad's
Dad's chill.
okay. Yeah.
It's a little corny, but it's good.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
not
right. Well,
funny. I think it's great.
it
I
is a,
think it's great.
it is a son and father
Yeah.
podcast,
Mhm.
right?
So I think it would be appropriate to call me dad on a
Yeah, yeah,
father
right.
podcast.
So I'm gonna again I mean you've just been dropping nuggets here left and right, and we're so appreciative of that. So I'm just gonna kind of land the plane here, whatever cliche you want to throw out,
Sure.
and kind
Yeah.
of wrap things up. Um, you obviously, you have three beautiful daughters. One who's about to graduate from college, one who's
Hmm.
in college, and another one who's going to be a freshman
Yeah.
come next fall.
I know. Crazy.
Um, yeah, and it's amazing how quickly the time has flown. So I would again, I would just kind of wrap things up here to ask you a final question around, what words of inspiration do you have, not only for this generation, like Ethan's generation and your
Hmm.
daughter's generation as a collective,
Hmm.
but more importantly, what words of inspiration do you have, for folks that are, probably stuck in a little bit of a rut,
Hmm.
and want to dive deep, but are too afraid of the
Sure.
risk of what could go wrong?
Sure.
Because you've obviously overcome all of that.
Hmm.
You're very successful in your career. I'm sure you weighed all of the risks
Hmm.
going into the real estate investment space, but heck, you decided to go ahead and take that deep dive and to learn
Yeah.
everything that you possibly could.
Hmm.
So you used a combination of intuition, your own talents, data, all of that. So again, kind of on two levels here, inspiration for the college students of this generation and folks that want to transition into something that's got high risk and even higher rewards.
Yeah. I mean, I went through that, right? When I was thinking like, I had a cush job, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a cush job, and that I can do it with my eyes closed. And but I went through that. I went through like, oh, what if I fail? What if I lose money? What if it doesn't work out? What if, right? And then it's also, I can respond to it with, what if it does work out,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
What if you ends up really flying? What if it's like, all of that? Because I think that that is important to to not go into it kind of blindly. And so, I tell my girls like, how do you know unless you try, right? How do you know unless you try? And also in terms of when you think about, okay, if it doesn't work out, so you go back. So to me, it's like, okay, if it doesn't work, so I go back to recruiting. At least I will never go back and be like, I wonder, I will never wonder. I would know,
Yeah.
right? I would know. And so, and even in failure, there's always tons of learnings in failure, right? And so I don't see it as failure. I see it as lessons, right? Like it's really a lesson, like, okay, that was not good. Or like, I won't do that again. Or I didn't like that. Or that was like, then that's a lesson of like, okay, that space I'm not going to go into. Or I'm not, that's not for me or whatever, right? I think self-doubt will probably be your number one, like, red tape, your personal red tape, right? But if you go into it with eyes wide open, with data, right? Knowing like, the risk and the rewards, one outweighs the other, and there's backup plan and all of that. I think that's really the first step, right? And there's also paralysis, like analysis paralysis, right? Like you just got to do it. And I went through that, like, should I buy this property? I'm scared, But it was one of those like, I'm gonna do it, like I'm gonna do it. And if it fails, then I sell it. And I'm sure I'll still make profit, right? So if I'll sell, it's a
Yeah.
property. Property's like so hard to like not make money off properties, right?
Yeah.
And so really that's where it is. I like have a plan, right? Like have a plan, but don't be afraid to have, things that come into your life, have it be part of the plan, right? Have it be part of the plan. It's, don't be so rigid. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean, don't get tunnel vision, right? And most plans change. That's okay. It's still a plan, right? Okay, this plan, okay, became A plan became B plan. Okay, that's okay. That's still a plan, right? So that's okay. I think the third thing is, second thing is, find mentors, find people who are
Yeah.
willing to give you, like, listen to them, listen to all the good things and the bad things, learn from all the mistakes and their and their and and all the goodness that they've accomplished, because make them make those mistakes for you so you don't have to do it, right? And so I always tell
Hmm.
my girls like, I'm okay with, that screw up. So at least, like, as long as you don't make that screw up, right? Like that you learn from that screw up, from me, that you don't make that screw up, right? And so find mentors, whether it's even if you have to pay someone to mentor you. I had to pay someone to
Hmm.
mentor me in
Hmm.
learning my SDR, right? But that was an investment in myself. And honestly, like, and it was absolutely worth it, because I also did the due diligence of, I didn't just went and mentor with whoever. I really wanted to make sure someone who knew, like, who was coming from the same angle as me, so that way I was really learning, as much out of that. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap, but it's worth it, because if you're, if it's something that you really make something out of it, right? And so find mentors, find people who are willing to teach you, and whether you have to pay for it or not pay for it, but always like reach out to people. Hey, like ask questions. Like I think our generation, Reg, I think I don't think we gatekeep. I think because we're always thinking about like, yeah, make, do it better, make it better.
Yeah.
I just tell
It's
my
true.
girls, I always tell my girls like, I want all three of you to be
So
better
true.
versions of, your dad and I, not
So
just
true.
financially, just generally speaking as a human being. Like I want you all to be better versions of us, right? And so I think, and what you contribute to society, then it's going to be even better, right? And then I think last thing I think is, find something that you love, right? Because a career is a marathon, right? I mean, it's like, where are we going? It's like, I remember when I was your age, I remember my mom going, you should think about what you should do for retirement. And I was like, what? I'm like, I'm like, I'm going to a party right now. I can't think about the time, right? Like I'm trying to find my stilettos. I can't, I'm going to the club. I don't want to talk about retiring, yeah. But here I am, and so I think like find something that you're going to be passionate about, that you're going to enjoy, and even if halfway through, a third through, whatever, like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. Do it. Like, do it. Because honestly, it's, there's that saying, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life or something like that. Right. And so, I'd be up until like 3 in the morning, designing. Right. And, and wake up the next day and be just as excited because I love what I do. But if I was up at 3 in the morning in corporate, and I'd be like hating my life the next day, right? And I'm like, hey, you know,
Yeah,
but it's find something that you love, and you will grow and mature, and what you love now may change down the road, and that's okay. It should change, right? Because change equals growth, right? And I think that that's okay. And I tell my girls all the time, don't, if down the road you want something, if my girls down the road want to take on my business, awesome. But they don't have to. It's not their dream. It's not their passion, whatever. That's okay.
mm,
That's okay. So, but it's okay to chase your dreams, and even if your dreams change. So,
that's awesome. Very inspiring.
all right.
Perfect.
Dream
Okay.
big, but don't be afraid to pivot along the way.
Absolutely. Dream big.
Right?
Don't be afraid. Totally. Don't be afraid
I
to
love
pivot,
it.
and you will
Sure.
pivot all the time. Through your entire life, you'll pivot. And and
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not even a pivot. It's like a backward step,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too. And so and yeah, like Ethan, like feel free to text me like anytime, right? Like,
sure.
my girls, like they text Mara all the time, like Maya,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like feel free to text me if you have a question or whatever. Like I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm here. So
Perfect. Thank you. I really
you're very
appreciate it.
welcome.